Samsung's brand new Galaxy Z trifold is here. I've had some exclusive early hands-on time, and here's everything you need to know. But first, let's do a world's first unboxing. So the first thing you'll notice is that we do have a large box. This is much larger than the Fold 7. And inside there is a pack, followed by the device, as well as a charger included, something you don't get with the Fold 7. Now inside that initial pack, there are two inner boxes. We've got an accessories box with a SIM card tool, a USB Type-C cable and some paperwork, and then the other box has an included case. And here it is. Now from the front, it looks exactly like the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. So we've got a 6.5-inch cover display with a 21:9 aspect ratio, a 120 Hz refresh rate, and a 2600 nit peak brightness. But then it folds open not once, but twice to reveal the 10-inch canvas display. Now it doesn't fold out 3 times, so it's only got 2 folds. So technically it's a dual fold, but they've called it a trifold. But you do have the equivalent of 3 portrait screens on the main display, so maybe that's what they're going for. Now this 10-inch canvas display has a 16:11 aspect ratio, a 120 Hz refresh rate, and a 1600 nit peak brightness. So not quite as bright as the cover display or the main display of the Fold 7, but still very bright. Now a 10-inch display versus an 8-inch display on the Fold 7 might not seem like much more, but it is significantly larger in terms of surface area. And I think the key thing for me is when the Z trifold is folded open, it feels like a full-fledged tablet. It feels solid and flat, and there really isn't any flex. Yes, the 2 creases are still visible from an angle, but when you're looking at this head on, they are very minimal. And the engineering for this is really impressive because it is just 3.9 millimeters at its thinnest point. That makes it the thinnest Galaxy mobile ever. Now at its thickest point, it is the same as the Fold 7, so around 4.2 millimeters, and that is for the USB Type-C ports. And although it feels like a very thin tablet, it does make it a slightly thicker smartphone when it is folded down. So it's around 12.9 millimeters thick when it's completely folded, which makes it around 4 millimeters thicker compared to the Fold 7, which is around 8.9 millimeters. And although that is thicker than a regular smartphone, it's still thinner than the Fold 1. And relatively speaking, it is pretty thick. It also weighs around 94 grams more compared to the Fold 7. So it can be used as a regular smartphone when it's closed, but it is going to be slightly thicker and heavier. Now Samsung have actually done a lot to make this as durable and premium as possible. So we've got an aluminium armor frame, there's an optimized dual rail hinge with titanium housing, and there's a formulated fiberglass composite for durability, which is optimized for the Z trifold. And it only comes in the one crafted black color. Now a quick reminder, if you're enjoying this video so far and you want to see a lot more like it, then do consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. Now Samsung have also restructured the display layer, so we've got a reinforced overcoat, and this also has shock absorbing properties, things that I didn't really get to test unfortunately. We've got a precision magnetic closure to make it safer and more intuitive when you're opening and closing it, and the Z trifold maintains an IP48 rating. Now, I'm sure everybody's wondering what happens when you try to fold it the other way, because there is only one right way to fold the Z trifold. Well, if you try to fold it closed from the right instead of the left, you will get an immediate warning, and the phone will also vibrate to let you know not to do this. Now, you can actually fold it all the way from the right, but then if you try to fold the left side over this, so over the cameras, then the vibrations will get even more severe. And I'm sure if you did intentionally try to carry on folding this, you would end up damaging the phone. But this is something that you would want to have to intentionally do. It's not something that you can unintentionally do because of the warnings. Now, one thing is that with the Z trifold, there are just 2 states: using it closed as a smartphone or fully folded open as a tablet. There is no in between, there is no flex mode like you've got on the Z Fold 7, so you're not going to be able to fold it halfway and watch a video or something like that. If you try to fold the right hand side halfway, it just snaps back to normal, and the left hand side does fold halfway and stays there, but there's nothing that you can really do with it. So there's no middle mode like you have with the Huawei Mate XT, for example, where you can use it as a smartphone. a folded out small tablet and a full tablet, but the Z Trifold is more durable because the folding screen is never exposed unless you're using it. So when you are taking it in and out of your pocket, it's only going to be the glass that's going to be exposed. So you're much less likely to damage the folding display, which is the most fragile. So talking about the use cases, I think the easiest way to describe this is that once it's folded out, it is just a regular tablet. Compare it to something like the Tab S11. We've got different keyboard modes, so you can have the keyboard split into two or have it as a regular keyboard. And when you have it in portrait orientation, it's almost the size of an A4 sheet of paper. So this is going to be great for documents. And when you have it in landscape orientation, because of its 16:11 aspect ratio, it makes it ideal for watching videos. And unlike the Fold 7, you're going to have minimal black bars on the top and bottom. Of course, you can game on that large display similar to what you'd have on a tablet. And there are some interesting accessories. So there is a case with a kickstand, which I think is going to be very popular because this lets you mount this up and watch videos. But more importantly, you can make this into a workstation by connecting a wireless mouse and keyboard. Samsung have also optimized the software to make the most of this workstation mode, and that's with Samsung DeX. So generally with smartphones, if you have Samsung DeX, you do need to connect an external display to be able to use that desktop mode. The Samsung Galaxy Z Trifold is the first ever smartphone with DeX built in. So you can use DeX as you would do on a tablet on the 10-inch screen of the Z Trifold, and you can have up to 4 different desktop modes. Of course, if you do connect this to a monitor, you can also use that monitor as a second screen. This makes the Z Trifold very interesting, especially when it comes to productivity. Being a Samsung device, of course, it comes with Android 16 with One UI 8 out of the box, and Samsung has promised 7 years of software and security updates. Samsung has also further optimized One UI and Galaxy AI to take advantage of that large display. So you can have 3 portrait screens in multi-window for multitasking. Think of this as having 3 full-size smartphones side by side, which is awesome. Now, yes, you can do 3 windows on the Fold 7, but having 2 side by side is fine and usable, but having the third one does limit the space quite a bit. On the Z Trifold, this is super comfortable. And like we have with the Fold 7, if you're using the gallery and you're editing an image, you can have the edited image and the original image side by side. Having the larger display means that you get a better core app experience. So if you're in the file manager, for example, you're going to be able to see the full tree and folder structure across that large display. If you're using browsing assist, you can see the original and the translated web page side by side. So there's lots of different scenarios, and I think I will go back to my point of think of this as a regular tablet with a 10-inch display. Whatever you can do on your tablet, you can pretty much do on the Z Trifold. Now, there are lots of similarities with the Fold 7 as expected. One of those areas is with the camera. So we've got the exact same camera setup. There is a 10 megapixel selfie camera on the cover display. There's another 10 megapixel selfie camera on the inner display. For the rear-facing cameras, there's a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 200 megapixel primary camera, as well as a 10 megapixel telephoto camera, which is going to give you 3 times optical zoom. Now, I've done a detailed review of my Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. So if you want to see how the cameras perform, you can check out that video, which will be linked down in the description. But generally speaking, the cameras on the Z Fold 7 as well as the Z Trifold will be good, just not at the level of the flagship S25 Ultra, for example. Now, you can still use the cover screen preview to take selfies from the rear-facing cameras, but this is not as easy to do as with the Z Fold 7. It's pretty much the same as trying to take pictures with a tablet. For the performance, we have the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy, not the 8 Elite Gen 5. Now, it looks like Samsung has been working on this before the Gen 5 was available. So this is why we've got the 8 Elite for Galaxy. So although this is not going to have the latest and greatest out there, the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy is still a very powerful chipset. And we do get more RAM on the Z Trifold compared to the Fold 7. So 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM with 512 gigabytes of UFS 4.1 storage as a base. The speakers are the same as the Fold 7, so they sound really good and do get very loud. And for the battery, so we have the largest battery ever in a Galaxy Z device, a 5,600 milliamp hour battery. This is split into 3 over the 3 parts of the device, and it is quite a bit bigger compared to what we have on the Fold 7 with a 4,400 milliamp hour battery. Now, how good is the battery life going to be? Well, although it's a lot larger compared to the Fold 7, you do have a much larger display, so that's going to require more power. So realistically speaking, it's going to come down to how much you're going to be using that large display compared to the cover display. If you're pretty much using the Z Trifold as a tablet all the time, then the battery life may not be that good. But if you are using it between the cover and the main display balance, then you should get pretty good battery life like I've been getting on the Z Fold 7. Of course, I would have liked to have had a bigger battery with silicon carbon technology, but this is something we don't have. We still get 45 watts of wired charging with 15 watts of wireless charging, and reverse wireless charging is included too. Now finally, for pricing and availability, so the Samsung Galaxy Z Trifold will be coming to Korea, Singapore, the UAE, China, and the US. Unfortunately, there is currently no news about it coming to the UK. The device is initially going to be coming to Korea, then the other regions. And for pricing, so for Korean ones, this is going to be priced at 3,590,000. This is roughly the equivalent of around 2,500 US dollars. Now, I've not been given the US pricing as yet, but I would expect it to be between $2,800 and $3,000. That's basing it on the Korean won versus US pricing for the launch of the Fold 7. So a pretty pricey device, but I personally think it's amazing to see Samsung evolve the folding concept to something that's truly unique, a smartphone that transforms into a full-fledged 10-inch tablet. Now, I don't think this is going to be for everyone, and if you are somebody who's looking for a fold, I still think the Fold 7 is going to be the best option for most people. But if you want something that's one of a kind, then the Samsung Galaxy Z Trifold might be the one for you. That's what I think anyway. What do you guys think? Drop me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. I am going to try to get a hold of one and use it and review it over the next few weeks and months. If you want to see that first, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then do smash that like button for me. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on Super Saf TV, and I'll see you next time.